Hey there! I opened up the floor on Instagram for people to ask questions that they would like to see me answer in videos. So there are a number of talk videos coming. I know they're not for everyone, and other people seem to really enjoy them. I try to keep them interspersed with some pen videos, but just so you know, there's a bunch coming. And the question today, I got it tied into questions about tariffs. And I'm not going to make this political, but it was a question on a lot of people's minds. And I think out of that came this question. Can the US make a complete fountain pen, so that would be nib, feed, converter, piston, and if so, at what cost? Well, that question I can't answer because I'm not a manufacturer, so I don't know what things cost. But think of companies like B.R.E that say we'll sell you any nib you like, but you have to buy 5,000 of each. And that's not, I'm not exaggerating, that's the number. You buy 5,000 fine and 5,000 medium and 5,000, as I understand it, okay? So we're not talking about that though. We're not talking about buying parts somewhere. We're talking about manufacturing something entirely within a certain country. Is that possible? I don't see why not. Why would it not be possible? I'll give you two examples of companies that I know of that do everything in-house. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I know. There might be others. I think of Aurora in Italy, I think still makes its nibs in-house, but Sailor makes its nibs in-house. But a lot of companies buy nibs, right? It's B.R.E, Jowo, Schmidt. That's kind of it. And now there are some other manufacturers. We see more nibs coming out of China, but can you do it? Yes. Yes, I would say yes. And there are people who do almost everything. I'm thinking, for example, of Pierre Miller, Desiderata Pens. He may buy his material somewhere, but he buys his nibs somewhere, nibs and I think feeds, but I think in some cases he makes his feeds for the dip nib inserts. But the parts in his pen, whether that's vacuum filled pens or it's a sort of pump, he has a pump filler kind of, that's a bad sentence, but he has a sort of pump filler mechanism. As far as I know, he makes all those parts in-house, and that's part of his business model, that he does that, as I understand his company. There are others that do that, and then they also make their nibs. So for example, Santini, it's probably Santini, not Santini, Santini, Santini in Italy. I have a pen underway from them, so that review will come at some point, but it has to get here first. They make their own nibs. So they have a company that does not only make their pens in-house, I don't know if they make the materials, if they make the ebonite or the acrylic, but they do make the nibs, and that is a big step. Then there are companies like, say, the Carolina Pen Company. Jonathan Brooks casts his own resin. So now you're really making the material for your pens, but then I do think that he buys his nibs, right? And the final company that I will mention, and I'm just showing you this pen not because this is better than the other companies, it's just because I happen to have this lying around today. Magna Carta in India makes pens, makes their own nibs. Here we have their Mag 1000, massive, colossal pen with a beautiful nib, number 10, fantastic. They make their own feeds out of, I think, ebonite, I'm pretty sure. It smells like ebonite spirit. So yes, they do it. They make this pen, as I understand it, this entire thing comes out of India. So they make it in-house. I don't know if they make their own materials, but they do make the pens out of them, and they make their own nibs and feeds. So you can do it. Sorry. So it can be done if you want to do it. Now it's one thing, and this is easy for me to say, I don't make pens. It's one thing to take a blank of, say, acrylic or ebonite, a rod, put it on a lathe, make a barrel, make a section. I wouldn't be able to do it, but I mean, that's one thing. It's a different thing to have the metallurgical skill to make the nibs. I'm not saying that is more difficult, I'm just saying it's a different skill. And you may not have that skill. I would imagine you can make a feed on a lathe because it's a thing that spins. Nibs, I'm not sure of. So if you're stamping them out of metal or doing whatever it is you're doing, I think that is a different skill set. But I could see how it might actually be very beneficial to pen companies if they were able to do that thing, because then you could theoretically make something entirely in-house. And I think that's pretty cool. So is it doable? Yeah, I genuinely don't see why not. It's not very common, because it's more and more different skill sets that you need to get that product made. I'm thinking of very random comparison with samurai swords. They were typically not made by a single person. You had the very, very skilled smith to make the blade, but then someone made the tsuka, the grip, and then someone wrapped that. So and you had the tsuba, so tsuba, confusing, but the cross guard. You would say in European stuff, like someone else would make that. And then everything is put together. So I'm not saying that one thing is better than the other. I don't think it is cooler if you can make everything than if you can't make everything, because it takes someone like Jonathan Brooks. The acrylics he makes are fantastic. I'm not saying he can't make a nib, but the materials in themselves are already an incredibly skilled craftsmanship. So again, I don't think one thing is cooler than another thing. But that's it. So is it possible? Yeah, I think so. And I think that specific pieces like nibs and like converters might be the hardest. So that maybe you can look at other filling systems like Pierre does at Desiderata. Again, he has a wonderful pump filler. I have one. I forgot to take it out, but it's a lovely pen. You can look up, it's a sobriquet. Works very well with pieces that are not converters. They don't have to have the little metal ring and the little thin plastic barrel reservoir piece. So I think you can do that, but then you have to be willing to make that investment, right? And learn how to create all those things. But I really don't see why it can't be done. Now, what I will say, and that's the only thing I'll say about price, is it stands to reason that the more handiwork involved, the higher the cost of the pen is going to be. The more pieces you make in-house and don't have to buy, it might be beneficial if you don't have to buy it, but someone has to make it. So you need to have that equipment, you need to have that skill, you need to have that insight in how to do it properly. You have to be able to put it all together. That takes time. Mastery takes time. So as a result, I think you would definitely pay for these pens. Then again, something like this Magna Carta Mag 1000, in my mind, a great pen, a steel nib that writes really well. I made it a little bit wetter, but that was my preference. It's a beautiful number 10 nib. That's certainly a conversation starter. If you don't truly believe me, here is a Cross Peerless with something that's approximately number 6 nib. I'm not joking when I say number 10 nib is a very, very big nib, right? I find it fairly priced given that it's all made in-house. It's not a cheap pen, but it could be a lot more expensive. You can always say that, I get that, but I hope that point is clear. So can it be done? Yeah, I think so. For sure. Hope that was a sensible answer. If you have any insights, please share them below because I enjoy reading them. I hope that was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye.